As our planet gets lighter and lighter, so will our perspective on the food we choose to eat. Some of us may even choose to change our eating habits based on new information we learn. Inga is a healthy food coach. She and her husband have a YouTube channel called Health Origins, where they help people transform their eating habits by becoming more mindful. So Inga is on the news with us today. Welcome, Inga. And Inga's got a great YouTube channel you guys can check out. Inga, I've been following your work, and you talk a lot about living naturally. I want to talk specifically about ways to change your eating habits. And I know you've talked about this on your channel before. So we have a tendency to have kind of a love-hate relationship with food. And, sometimes we love what we're eating, but then we don't necessarily like what it does to our body. So if we do want to make these changes and we want to make them in the best way possible, what are your recommendations for that?
Okay, thank you for having me. So I have 5 tips. I mean, there's obviously a lot to talk about here, but I thought I'll give you 5 tips and keep it simple, and hopefully, people can take some takeaways, take some notes from this.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's hard to change something if you don't know exactly what you're doing. Okay, so that's why tip number 1 would be to keep a food diary for at least a week.
Okay.
So that's a really great tip wherever you start, to just notice what you're doing and notice those patterns. So, having a food diary will help you to see when you're snacking, what you're snacking on, and, what's your food, what are your habits, regular things around your food.
Yeah.
So that's number 1. Okay. So tip number 2, because we probably know what we should be doing, and we probably have a lot of habits that we want to tweak, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the important thing is to tackle only one habit at a time. So that's another very important tip, because if you start changing like 3, 4, 5 different habits at a time, you'll just overwhelm yourself and actually end up not changing any of them. So that's why that's very, very important. So look at your patterns from that food diary in the tip number 1, and then take and look what's your keystone habits. So I talk on my videos about keystone habits. Keystone habits is one habit that can perhaps influence all others. So for me, as an example, so people can understand easier, a keystone habit is, for example, eating slower, right? So I eat very fast. And when you eat fast, you basically have a higher chance of overeating, because it takes 15 minutes for signal from the stomach, to reach your brain to signal that you are full, right? So that's why slowing down can actually impact you not overeating, because if you slow down, then basically you will probably give yourself enough time to get that signal from your stomach to your head to signal that you're full. So choose one habit and look at changing that, not a few at a time, just one at a time. Number 3 is, not only are we wanting to remove that old habit, but also we want to replace it with something healthy, right? So that's number 3. Okay, because if we say, okay, well, we'll stop snacking junk foods and try and go cold turkey, as they say, then you might not be successful, because you're so used to snacking at particular times of the day. It's so habitual for you that if you try and remove it completely, then you're probably not going to be very successful. So that's why it's important to, instead of removing the unhealthy habit, to actually replace it with a healthy habit instead. So if you were, for example, snacking on, chocolates or some sweet treats, donuts and things like that, then maybe replace it with dates or fruit, fresh fruit. So something healthier that still gives you that sweet sensation and that taste, but
Yeah.
it's actually much, much better for you. Tip number 4 is to attach it to already existing habits. Okay, so um, because you, with all the will in the world, you might want to do it and kind of really are up for changing something, but if you forget, if you don't get into that pattern where you have either a reminder or attach it to another habit. So that's a very useful thing to do. So if, for example, think about, if you want to hydrate yourself more, so you think, oh, I need to drink more water, right? So that's a new healthy habit. You want to, or maybe your unhealthy habit was drinking sodas and you want to replace it with more, water. So
Right.
what you could do, right, you could attach it to a habit you're already doing, like brushing your teeth. And now the final fifth tip would be that basically if you already started changing one habit, don't change, like don't add another habit until this one has established. So I would say at least 21 days. So there's like studies shown that you need to do a new habit for at least 21 days for it to kind of become a little bit semi-automatic and new neural pathways forming in your brain. So yeah, don't start another, don't add another healthy habit until this one you
Hmm.
you kind of mastered.